So just briefly, if some people here are not GCPs, I am Anne-Louise Dupin, and I'm working with Salto Green, which is the resource center for the green transition in the Erasmus Plus and ESC programs. And we are doing a quick webinar, just 45 minutes, to present a tool that can be really useful for DNAs, either for staff training, beneficiary trainings, or TCAs, whenever you want to talk about taking action for the climate, lowering your carbon footprint, and just having like a collective reflection and collective action. And I am welcoming Julien Noël, who is coming from the association 2 Tons that launched this whole workshop. And he's going to be able to explain a bit more about what's behind this tool, how it works, and how you can implement it in your own agencies.
Thank
So
you,
thank you.
Louise, and thank you all for welcoming me. I haven't talked in English in a while, so my English will be a little rusty. Don't hesitate to ask me questions anytime you want. And I don't know if some of you have already done the workshop over here, or if you haven't heard about the workshop at all.
Maybe we can do something like, can you put an emoji in the chat if you have done the workshop before? I'll start with like, because I have done the workshop.
Okay.
Okay, Alicia as well. Okay, so a few people.
A few people. Perfect. So I'm going to introduce it for the ones who haven't done it. And so our workshop is called 2 Tons, and it's a workshop to explore the future and act together for climate. This workshop exists since 2020. We launched it in France. And the purpose was that everybody knew we were facing a challenge on climate, but they lacked information to be in actions and do something about it. The first one was having no landmark. So basically, it was like, okay, I know, for example, on my alimentation, I can do with less meat, or for example, for my housing, I can electrify the chauffage. And Louise, please help me on
The
that.
heating, the central heating.
The heating. Perfect, thank you. And so basically, they didn't know what is the landmark? Is it about 1 ton? Is it about 500 kilos of CO2? They didn't know. And then they had a lack of motivation. Basically, it's what we called the triangle of inactions. And they were like, okay, I'm an individual, but I'm not the one who should move. The state should move, or the companies should move, and so nobody moved, so people were lacking motivation. And that's basically why we did this workshop. It was to have both tackled. So the goal of 2 Ton is to do an immersive and collective experience to tackle these two objectives. One is understand the impact, the level for action, and to take action. And the other one is to realize the power to act and develop when you take actions. So why we are called 2 Tons? I don't know if someone know why we are called 2 Tons. It's a good question I have for you guys. So basically, the one who did the workshop should know why we are called 2 Tons.
Okay, surprise quiz. If you want to put the answer in the chat, why is it 2 tons and not like 5 tons or 1 tons? I think they forgot.
They forgot. That's okay.
Okay.
Yes, Satier, exactly. So basically, 2 tons. It's a goal we have by 2050, and the goal is 2 tons of CO2 per person per year, and that's the goal we have within the Paris Agreement, so the COP21. And so basically, it's we need to reach that goal by 2050 in order to lower the rise of temperature below the 2 degrees mark, since we have now achieved to do 1.5 degrees since this year, according to scientists. So basically, each human emits, so on the world, about 8 tons of CO2. So the goal is to divide it by 4. And it's even more for Europeans, actually. For the French, it's around 9.5. For Germans, it's about 13. So we must divide our emissions in order to succeed. And so what we would do during this workshop is to identify the individual and collective levers for actions to accelerate the transition, and what could be the opportunities, what society choice we have to make in order to attain that objective, that goal. And so what we do during the workshop is we take actions, and there's 3 levels of actions. There's the eco actions and the actions you can take as an individual. For example, I can consume less meat per week. I can electrify my heating. I can buy an electric car. What we can do as a collective actions, you can prioritize solar panels. You can prioritize biogas. You can prioritize bioagriculture. And then how there's action in the influence level. So how can you do to accelerate the transition, not within you, but within your organizations, your peers, or stuff like that. So this is, for example, a few examples of cards. So every time you have a card, so for example, you only eat twice a week meat and fish, and you have the hint on the impact, other benefits, why we're not doing it right now. So each card is really like precise in order to have the, because you have and I would show you, you have a simulation of impact. And so in order to have concrete actions and concrete goals, you'll have concrete cards also. And so for example, that one on the left is personal, and the one on the right is collective. So this is like the simulations on the right. You see that there's carbon emissions that are going down throughout the workshop. And so this is basically the tool you use during the workshop, and it's in order to quantify your actions. And you'll have 8 turns of taking actions. 1 turn is individual, 1 turn is collective, and whatsoever. And then at each turn, you will stop and see what were the impacts of the actions you took. And how we can do that? We can do that because we created our own carbon emission simulation based on OECD, on ADEM, on various scientist data, in order to be really precise and how to quantify the actions you take during the workshop. So that's really interesting because it really makes you want to move and to and to do stuff because you see how it will impact your lives and the lives of others around you. Concretely, how the workshop is organized. So it's a 3 hours workshop with one facilitator. You can be either from 6 to 15 participants. It can be done online or in real life. And it's available in 8 languages. For example, I've seen people from Germany. It's available in German, in Spanish, in Flemish, but Netherlands, also English, French. So basically, before the workshops, you will calculate your own carbon footprint. So we send you a form of 15 minutes, and you say like, how is your house, how you live, basically, and it will calculate your own carbon footprint in order to do the workshop. If you don't want to do it with your own carbon footprint, you can do it with carbon footprint of personas in order to do the workshop also. Then the 3 hour workshop is divided in 3 categories. First is the introduction. It's about 20-25 minutes in order to present the cause and consequences of climate change. And also you will have an introduction to carbon accounting and also to planet boundaries and the donut theory, because we do not talk only about climate during the workshops. We talk about also other climate boundaries, so biodiversity, acidifications of the oceans, stuff like that. Then you have the simulation. So this is what I told you about. You take actions and you see how it impact your carbon footprint and the carbon footprint of the collective. And this is it alternating rounds between individual and collective actions to start in 2025 and to go to 2050. Then when the simulation ends, you have a 45-minute debriefing in order to interpret the results, brainstorm also about your own organizations or your own jobs, and to have conclusions. And then you still have access to the platform. So, for example, the participants that calculate the carbon footprint each year in order to see like how they deflated their carbon footprint, or what actions they took in place in order to be actor of the transition. So in real life or online, in real life you only need a projector, and online you only need a laptop. And then there's 2 options. So this is the tariffs for companies, and you are public organizations though, so it's other tariffs. But I will send it to you. So you have professional interventions. So it's the one you had, for example, for the people who did the workshop. So basically, we choose a professional facilitator that is coming to do the workshop for you guys, and for that part, it can be done in the various language, and it's 1,500 euros and not 2,500 euros for public organizations. So, for example, each 15%, the intervention of a professional is 1,500 euros. And then we have what we call train the trainer. So basically, the people who have done the workshop can then do a training in order to do the workshop to their peers. And so basically, this is 500 euros per person. And then when they do the workshop to their peers, it's 5 euros per person attending the workshop. So this is a way to really lower the price of the workshop, and also to have internal knowledge about that stuff, and it's really good about how you can cultivate really I will say the mind, but the culture of the organization in order to do that subject. That was it for me on the presentation. I don't know if you have questions about it or some remarks you want me to talk about.
If you have any questions, you can either raise your hand or just write them in the chat if it's more comfortable. I have a few questions that was mentioned to me by people who could not attend. One of them is, what's the limit in age? Because we have some people here who work with school sector up to adult education. Is there a time, like an age limit, or is it possible to do this workshop with young children, for example?
Yeah, so basically the workshop is best for people above 18 because, for example, it's you have to take decisions on housing, how you live, and normally when you before 18, it's difficult to say, okay, I will change the way I eat my apartment or stuff like that, or change the way I eat because that's my parents that are taking these actions. But what we do for people between what we call high school in France, is that we do the workshop but with personas, so that they don't calculate their own carbon footprint because they don't have like really much power about it. But in order for them to like integrate what the knowledge of the workshop, we do for people between 15 to 18 we do the workshop with personas so that they can take action for other people and they see how the workshop works. But below that age, I don't think two-tone is the solutions um, to cultivate and to put in place.
Okay. So rather teenagers, maybe youth volunteers. As you said, it's possible under 18, but it's more meant for young adults
Yeah,
and adults. Okay.
yeah.
I had another question that's very practical. In how many language is the Teutons workshop available?
So there's 8 languages, and there's 5 languages that in Europe that are usable. So there's French, German, Spanish, uh, Vlaams, and French, German, Spanish, and English. Yeah, in English.
And that's 8.
That's 5.
Fine.
The
Okay.
other ones are Chinese and others in Asia. Chinese, Japanese, and another one. I think Vietnamese.
Okay. So 5 European languages.
Yeah.
Okay. And I had another question that was like uh, maybe a bit blunt, but from a participant who asked like, what are the limits of this? As you said, it can be really great to work on collective actions to understand the different levers of action. Can you think of a context where this would not be appropriate, or limits that you have to take into account when you organize an event like this?
Mm. So basically, for me, it's I will not say an introduction, but for example, if you want to work on your own organizations and what could you do to in order to change how you work within your organization, how it will impact your job. Tuton is not the tool for that. It's a tool to like open your eyes and see and really integrate how it works. But then I think, for example, what we do with some companies is we do the two-tone workshop in the morning, and then they have a session for the whole afternoon about, okay, so now that I understand these topics, what can I do within my organization? And I think it's nice to see 2 tons as an introduction to that, because you can see you can really broaden your vision about it, and like see how you can tackle these problems. But it's not the you cannot tackle the problems in 3 hours. So you really need after that some like engagement on how can this impact my organization, my work, what we want to do, our strategy. And so it's not a strategy tool; it's a tool to open your eyes on how can I do different, and really what I understand about carbon emissions, planet boundaries, stuff like that. But it's not a tool to do your strategy for yourself.
Okay. Yeah. So if you want to work on your green strategy in your NA, that's not the only tool. And
Exactly.
we have a question from Satye, which asks about the concrete prices for NA, which is always obviously a big concern for agencies. Are the prices same in all countries or different? And who do I have to contact if I'm interested in offering 2 tons in Germany? So two questions
Um,
in one. One about the prices and one about how do you
for the,
get the first contact to organize an event?
so for the NAs, what is NAs in order to?
I'm so sorry. This is a national agency, so it's the public service that they work in.
Yeah. So basically, it's I'll write it in the chat too. It's 150 euros per workshop with a professional facilitator, and then it's concretely, if you have done the workshop, you can. So after the first workshop, if some participants want to be their own facilitators within their organization, that's possible. And so for the national agency, it's 300 euros per person, and then it's 5 euros per participant when they do the workshop within their organizations. So, for example, Satya, you already done the workshop, so you could do the training. It's 4 hours for 300 euros. And then when you do a workshop in Germany, each time you have 15 participants, it's 75 euros per workshop. If you have 14 participants, it's 70 euros per workshop. So you can really lower the price per workshop. Uh, I don't know if it was clear or not, Satye. If you have other question, okay, perfect.
Good.
And you can contact me in order to either take a professional facilitator or to organize the training for you.
So that would be the course of action, contacting you, or is there another way, depending on the country they're in,
No,
to...
everyone can contact me. For the for example, I saw that people were in Serbia. Serbia, I don't know if we have professional facilitators in-house in Serbia. So, for example, for some countries, if you want to do it in person, we will have to see how can we arrange that. And for the 300 per person training, it's done virtually. And in Germany, we have facilitators, so that's not a problem.
Okay. Then maybe could you add your contact information in the chat so that people know how to contact you?
Yeah. So that's my email address. And my phone number.
Okay. Great. So do we have any more questions or comments or feedback? Again, if you have attended the workshop before, if you have feedback to share, if you want to share your experience or if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or type it in chat. I think that should be okay. That was a bit quick, but that's great. I think everybody's ready to go on holiday. Um, just while we wait for the last persons, if you want to again give a feedback, make a comment, or ask a question, I'll recommend as well that if you haven't done already, you register for the SharePoint of Salto Green, because this is where you can find a lot of resources and tools like Tutons and more information. If you're NA staff, you can just click. You have to ask for access for the first time because it's a private SharePoint, and then you'll have access to all the work and news that we do and all the resources that we select for NA staff and for beneficiaries. Um, and again, I'm checking briefly, but I think we're good. No one has questions. Again, you have Julien's email address, even phone number if you want to ask any more questions. And if it's okay with all of you, then I will free you to go enjoy the rest of your lunch and the rest of your afternoon, and hopefully a nice weather wherever you are in Europe. Julien, one last word, one last thing to mention.
Thank you very much for that moment and for the presentation. Don't hesitate, and I hope you try the workshop. We even have Italian. I see Alicia. We have Italian also as a European language. So yeah, don't hesitate to contact me, and have a nice day.
All right. Okay. Thank you, everybody. Have a nice day as
Thank
well.
you.
And we'll see you around for another event or another webinar.
Bye.